Clay just launched their automated outbound certification, and within days, over 20 Unlock Clay students had the chance to pass this already. I personally reviewed each of their Clay tables, and in this video, I'll show you exactly what they did in order to pass this certification. And not only this, I'll also be giving you access to some of their anonymized Clay tables that actually passed this certification. And on top of that, I'll be building out a Clay workbook together with you, so you have no excuse when it comes to passing this certification at your first attempt in under 15 minutes. So to get started with, let's first of all clarify what the hell is the automated outbound certification and why should you exactly care about it? Well, first of all, if you are a freelancer or if you're in any way a service provider, which may include Clay, it's just a nice way to virtue signal and show off your actual credibility, because this is a certification which you get directly from Clay that validates the fact that you know how to use Clay for GTM and for all of these fancy automation workflows. So simply put, it's just a nice thing to add to your resume or to your CV, or alternatively to just flex at your clients with saying that you've been certified by Clay in order to implement go-to-market using their software. So let's jump straight into it. And for context, if you want to read a bit more about this, they have this really long rubric and criteria. And yes, I had to learn how to pronounce this word just ahead of this quick video. So let's get on with it. The main scoring criteria is quite simple. Overall, as like a TLDR of that toilet reading that I did earlier about the rubric and criteria, which took over 20 pages, the TLDR behind it is quite simple. You need to label your columns. You need to run 5 to 10 different enrichments. You need to use conditional formula as well. And the end goal is basically to just send some personalized emails. And that's what I've seen work across all the Clay tables that I reviewed amongst people that passed this certification with over 90% scores at their first attempt. So this is just a random example of one of the Clay tables. You can see it's nothing fancy. It basically just uses some ChatGPT enrichments to normalize like a YouTube channel name. It uses agent enrichment to find a creator's first name. And the rest of it is quite simple. It also just uses a bunch of different formulas, email finding enrichments. Like there are some more sophisticated enrichments in this one, I believe, but it's nothing too fancy. It's just basically super attainable for most people. And this is exactly what this certification is about. It's not quite being a Clay expert, but it's a good starting point. I believe it starts with this, then you probably end up being a Clay creator, and then after that, you become a Clay expert. So it's quite a linear pathway if you are to, try and become one of those thought leaders in the Clay space. So how about we just build this out together, and then you tell me if... And then just pinky promise me that whenever you obtain the certification, you drop me a message on LinkedIn just to tell me how useful you found this video. So in order for us to pull this off, we need to follow this 8-step process. The first step is to source companies inside of Clay. So in order for us to do that, we will need to go inside of your Clay accounts. You'll click on new, you'll click on workbook, and you'll title your workbook whatever you want. So in my case, I'm going to call this Clay certification template, Tim's example. What you're going to do next is you're going to click on find companies on the left-hand side of the panel. You're going to filter for whatever random industry you want to use for the sample data. And don't spend too much time on this, because what we're doing now is we're just sourcing some sample data so that we can then create a Clay table using that. So I'm just going to look for advertising services, agencies with 11 to 50 employees, and I'll just make sure that they're all located in, say, the United States. After you do that, you can just click on continue and import to new table. This will straight away create a new table for us over here. So just to remind you, this is step number 1. We're just sourcing the sample data. What we're going to do now is we're going to click on the toggle at the bottom of the screen, click on rename, and we'll title this table, Table 1, Companies. Just like with a lot of other Clay tables, we then need to find people working at these companies. The way we'll do that is pretty straightforward as well. We click on actions in the top right-hand corner and type in find people. You will notice one of the enrichments at the very top here. Find people doesn't cost you any Clay credits. No excuses to not use it. Click over here, and then you will be able to filter for people working at that set of companies that we just created in the previous table. So let's just select like founders and let's say CEOs or something like that. And then I'm just going to select for them to be in the United States. It honestly doesn't matter because no one's going to care. All they need to do is they just need to make sure that they see a table where you do that. So here I'm going to click on continue and import to new table. So up to this point, if you followed along, you should have one table with company data, one table with people data. This table will take a couple of seconds to hallucinate and load. So now you can click on toggle, click on rename, and we'll just type in table 2, people data. So we can just click on this play button to run all the rows. It wouldn't cost you any Clay credits. It just pulls the data from table 1 for you as well. So you have all the info about the company. if you want it. And to start with, here's what I think. Just click on the columns and click on hide all columns apart from the full name, because that's the only thing that's important in most cases, right? What we want to do now, just to show off our ability of using Clayagent inside of Clay, because that's an important criteria for the certification, what we want to do is just click on actions in the top right-hand corner and type in Clayagent. And the reason we'll be using this is because, just to clarify what we're doing here, we want to first of all show off the fact that we know how to qualify people to see if they fit our ideal client profile, to see if that person is in the right job title, in the right geography, and that kind of thing. So that's the first skill that we're going to try and show off, that we know how to qualify people for ICP using the Clayagent enrichment. After that, we want to show off our use of conditional formulas. So in that case, we'll say only run the email waterfall if this person falls into our ICP. We'll then show off the fact that we know how to normalize a company name using ChatGPT, using a ChatGPT prompt. Then we'll just create a random first line of an email, and then we'll use Clayagent again before putting together an email and adding the lead to our campaign. So just trust me on this. I tried this once before recording this video. I know it should work really well, and it should be quite a simple way to get certified as well. So essentially what we're doing here is we have this Clayagent enrichment, and if we just pull up the LinkedIn profile of the person here, and if we pull up the title, let's say the job title over here right in front of us, we just basically need to feed it the input and just say, hey, the input is the job title and the LinkedIn profile of a person. The input is the job title. If the person's title is a founder and they live in the US and run a B2B business, say ICP. If not, say bad fit, our ICP or bad fit. Of course, it's up to you. You can play around with the prompt a bit more and just give it some qualification criteria. But typically what I do is I just say, hey, this is the job title, this is the LinkedIn profile. Just give it the specific job title, which will qualify the lead as ICP, and then a location, and then just the fact that the business is a B2B business that they run, right? If not, they will say bad fit. And then now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to feed it the inputs. So I'm going to feed it the LinkedIn profile, company domain. And then basically after that, I'm just going to click on generate because I'm really, really lazy with this. And in this case, you will just basically use the LinkedIn profile and the website of the company in order to generate a really long prompt for us, which will qualify the lead to see if the lead fits our ideal client profile or not. Don't spend too long on this, by the way, because it's just basically a test Clay table, right? Like no one's going to care about this apart from just Clay, they'll probably just look at this really quickly. So don't spend too much time on the prompt. I don't think there is, that much value in doing that. But straight away, you can see it's generated a really long prompt for us. What I would do is I'll switch the model to 4.0 mini because I don't want to be spending Clay credits. But however, I do have 50,000 Clay credits to burn through in the next 20 days. So screw that. I'm just going to go with a suggested model, which I think was Argon over here. And then I'm just going to save and don't run because I want to test this out on one row first of all. So I hope you're still with me up to this point. So we've found the companies and the people. We're now just qualifying them to see if they fit our ideal client profile. So you can see we're running one row over here. It'll be nice and it'll probably take 30 seconds to do that. In the meantime, let's just show off our Clay skills by labeling the column. So all we're doing is we're left clicking on the column, clicking on rename column. Step 1, qualify lead for ICP. I'm going to do that. And then over here, you can see it's just giving me every single synonym of sculpting. So let's give it a couple of seconds to load. In the meantime, what we can do is we can start thinking about our next step, which is running the email waterfall. So in this case, we'll click on actions, we'll type in work email. And over here, you would see the first dropdown will be a work email waterfall. The only thing you would need to change here is for the run settings at the bottom. If you click on run settings here, you will see this only run if option, which basically just gives you this is the conditional formula which this certification will be testing you on. So just click on the use AI button on the right of it and just say only run if, and then we can say ICP status is ICP. Bonus points if you spell that correctly. Otherwise, you'll ruin the prompt. And then let's just see this. Let's confirm this. Yeah, so that should be fine. Output is correct. Save and don't run. And let's just play this out. So this should save automatically. You could see the first step over here. It qualified this lead as an ICP fit. Let's just click on play for this row just to make sure that it works completely fine as well. So you can see I just clicked on play over here and it found the email rapidly. So in that case, it works. I'm going to run this ICP qualification for a couple more leads just to see what the data comes out as, because I think it will be quite useful to see in some cases that it disqualifies the lead. Otherwise, if they're all ICP, it will be a bit suspect that we have a rubbish qualifying criteria. But in the meantime, worry not. What we'll do now is we'll click on actions in the top right-hand corner, and we're going to go for normalize. And then over here, you'll see normalize company name. And over here, this will automatically fill in for you, but you will basically just need to provide the name of the company and then continue to add fields, switch on the toggle for the normalized name, save and run, whatever. Yeah, save and don't run for the time being, I guess. And what we can do now is we can play into this, and this will also give us some brownie points from Clay from their certification, because guess what? You're also supposed to normalize the name of the company as well. And you can see this is good because in some cases it qualifies the lead as a bad fit, which is good for us because it just means that, the table looks a bit more legit because not everyone falls into our ICP. So the first step, qualify the lead for the ICP. In the second step, I'll rename the column and say step 2, run email waterfall. And then step 3 over here will be to normalize the company name. Normalize company name. And so far, they shouldn't have we shouldn't have a single reason why we're not, ticking off a lot of the items from, their criteria. So we found people, we found companies. This is great. We did the Clayton enrichment to qualify for ICP. We ran the email waterfall only if the lead fits our ICP. We even normalized the company name, which is great. And now I'm just going to show you how we can completely improvise the personalization of emails. So if we click on actions in the top right hand corner and just type in Clayton, over here, Clayton AI Web Research, what we're basically going to do is visit the LinkedIn profile of full name and generate first liner based on any of these prefixes. So I've just spent a couple of minutes coming up with this prompt, and it reads as follows. Visit the LinkedIn profile of full name and generate a first line based on any of these prefixes. Now, if you're not familiar with prefixes, it's basically just giving it like a specific output and just telling it to just adjust output based on the research that Clayton does. So I'm saying if the person's LinkedIn profile mentions a company that they worked at before this specific company they work at right now, then say, I was just looking at this past company where the person worked and I came across your profile. If the person's LinkedIn profile mentions how long they've been working at the company for, say you've been working at this company for this amount of time. And then if the person has a colleague working at the same company, then I would say something else. Don't worry, I'll also be giving you access to this exact Clay table and this prompt so you can copy and paste it for yourself. But essentially, I'm then just giving you access to the LinkedIn profile of the individual. So let's just type in URL. We should see the URL over here. And then I'm just asking you to make sure that each output is just one personalized first liner ready to be pasted into an email to the person. In this case, I'm going to click on this generate, but I hate clicking on generate for these kind of prompts because I think my prompt is actually better than this really long prompt that Clayton generates a lot of the time. So I'll give it a couple of seconds to think. And for context, this is not something that I would recommend every single time to generate first liners used like with so many different options like this, but it does tick off the criteria for finding relevant research. So let's just do that really quickly. You can see this prompt was put together. Once again, I'm going to click on save and don't run. And I'm going to basically just run it for one row just to make sure that it works. So let's give it a couple of seconds. Whilst it runs, I'm going to rename the column again. And I'm going to say step 4, generate personalized first liner for the lead. And one thing that we forgot to do, because I didn't do a good job here, is if I click on edit column at the very bottom, we can use AI and say only run if the work email, and then we'll select the email address, because remember, we should have found the email of the person by now as well. So over here, email, we need to make sure is not empty, because if it's empty, it's quite depressing. You can't really email a person if they don't have an email account, right? So output is correct, save and don't run. Let's give it a couple of seconds to think over here. But in the meantime, just to keep us updated on the progress, we not only qualify the lead for the ICP, we ran email waterfall, normalized the company name. We thought of a random first liner for the email. We actually did the 5 things. We basically prompted it with a couple of prefixes to personalize the first liner, and then we are just 2 steps away from completing the workflow. So let's just give it a couple of seconds to load. We can see over here that Clayton gave us a pretty good output. It says the first line. It says, I was just looking at Omniture and I came across your profile. In my opinion, it's a decent enough first liner. Of course, we're not talking about anything absolutely world-class here, but in case if you do want to get over 30 different first liners that I used in order to personalize emails for my agency, having sent over 500,000 emails for the last few months, then by all means, you can get them down below. The link will be in the description as well for the 2 or 3 people watching this right now as well. But in the meantime, all we're going to do is now we're going to put together the email. So I'm going to click on add column. I'm going to click on message. And over here, I'm just going to write any random email. Hi, first name. After that, I'm just going to use this personalized first line. And then I'm just going to type in any random offer. Curious, do you have a way to track revenue from each individual video that you put out on YouTube? For example, right? This is like a random example of an email. Now, as far as I saw from the clay tables that were created by some of the students that passed this certification, it was just basically the first line was personalized. The rest of the email can be absolute junk. Just make sure that, you put something there so it looks like a legit email. And then you just have a little signature, which will be nice and cute. And then over here, we could do like quick question, first name, right? Something of that sort. And then you can call this like email one, click on save. And what this will do is it will automatically, obviously, personalize the email for each individual lead. And then at the very end, what we will basically end up doing is, if I just show you with, I don't know, the first 5 rows, for instance, over here, we'll just play 5 rows and we can just play the rest of the row here as well for just all of the leads to load. And the first 5 rows will all have like personalized emails. And on the very right, the last step we'll do is we'll just type in whatever email automation tool we want to use. We'll click on add lead to campaign. And we're going to select like a random campaign that we need to have created already. In my case, I'm just going to use a test campaign. And I'm going to just make sure over here in the custom fields that I'm sending across email 1. And then it will just be email 1 body that we're sending across. And then we're just going to save and don't run for the time being. But essentially, you could see that for each one of those leads over here inside of this magic clay table, it's already personalized in the first line. Like I was just looking at GE Capital and I came across your profile. It's pretty okay. It's not too bad. GE Capital is the place where this person works before Marketing Nuts, for example. And that's basically that. Like all it would be is just us just qualifying the lead for ICP, running an email waterfall, normalizing the company name, generating a personalized first liner for the lead. And then at the very end, obviously just make sure that you can add the lead to a campaign over here on the right. And just make sure you don't forget the conditional formula. And that's pretty much that. Now, of course, you'll have questions, you have hesitations. I know, with any sort of certification, you want to get it right the first time. You don't want to be like me, where it took me like 3 tests in order to pass, in order to get my driving license. But sorry for another day. But either way, if you want to get a bit more confident about how to actually go about getting this certification, I've actually created a folder with a couple of the clay table examples that I anonymized. So if you want to take me up on those, just go grab them, top link in the description down below. And then one final thing, in case if you've been living under a rock for the last year or so, I run this program called Clay. It's the best way to learn Clay completely from start to finish. So yes, you could get some fancy certifications like this one, confirming that you know how to automate outbound using Clay, but the chances are you want more in-depth training and you want more templates, you want more free prompts and that kind of thing. And there is no better way, no faster way, no simpler way to learn Clay than using Unlock Clay right now. And it's better than any Clay University video out there right now. You can go and check out over 200 different testimonials that I've got listed on the website somewhere down here. But in the meantime, I'll be sharing down below the link to this clay table and to all the other templates and that kind of thing that I talked about. And you can even grab the slide as well, should you want to. Top link in the description down below. Other than that, if you have any questions or if you want to comment something nice down below just to request a future video, do let me know and I'll make sure to film some more videos to help you learn Clay faster. Anyways, I'll see you in the video. Make sure to subscribe now. Bye.